Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to Rimworld Ascension, Episode 20. This is just a recap of the previous 19 episodes, trying to tell a somewhat cohesive story. This is my first time doing something like this, so please do take it with a grain of salt. Now, let's get into the story of the tribe of Nasa and Kaminoa. Having escaped their previous village, 5 lost tribals finally found a new place to call home. After spending the first few days in this new area, they finally finished setting up their basic needs and could now focus on advancing technologically. However, there were those who sought to take what they had built for themselves, and the tribals would defend what little they had left and what they had built. Despite the hardships they had endured here, the tribals decided they needed a proper name for themselves and their village. They settled on calling themselves the Tribe of Nasa, and their new home, Kaminoa. Having now established a reliable food source and proper living areas with more planned, the Tribe of Nasa was finally looking like a proper home. As time went on, the tribals decided to expand their village in preparation for when more people would inevitably join them. However, as they were finishing the expansion, another group of raiders arrived, and this time, unfortunately, the tribe of Nasa would suffer a massive defeat. And in their darkest hour, a man cloaked in black arrived. This man dived straight into combat, trying to save the tribals, but alas, he was unable. As Val and White lied there in a pool of their blood, the men in black approached. As he frantically tended to them, he claimed his name was Enban and he was here to help. Despite his best efforts, he was unable to stabilize either of the tribals. In his last moments, Val asked Enban to stay at the village they had built to make it a sanctuary for those in need. Not wanting to deny a dying man's last wish, he swore that he would fulfill this last request, even if it cost him everything. After their passing, Enban took the bodies and buried them, not wanting to leave them to rot. He took stock of what they had built and figured there was enough here to live quite comfortably while he waited for people to call for assistance. After a few days alone, Enban decided he's going to go out and attempt to acquire someone to join the village, either through money or persuasion. Entering a nearby city, Enban decides to take some of their wine to help with acquiring another colonist, despite needing to steal it. However, while he was away, yet another pair of raiders attacked the village. They had no intent to take anything at all, and only burned it all down. While Enban continued to seek new allies, he received a message from an Empire deserter seeking shelter. With little hesitation, he offers what is left of the village as shelter. The deserter, named Ulslis, begins using what steel was left from the burnt warehouse to construct a basic shelter for himself, Enban and anyone he brings back. Finding a settlement with slaves, Enban decided to purchase one, named Delnos, and brought them back to the village. Receiving yet another message from someone needing assistance, Enban once again offered shelter to Apple, who was being chased by a scrapper. Having made it back safely, Enban and his new village residents had a lot of work to do if they wanted to make this place into a true refuge. They needed food, shelter, and protection, and it would be a long road ahead of them. Deciding that it would be more optimal, Enban ordered the nearby mountains shall be made into their new living area, as it was far safer from potential threats. While they were in construction of their new home, a message was received. A small group of survivors were seeking shelter, as they had lost their home. Despite the imminent famine, Enban refused to turn them away. Unfortunately, an outbreak of malaria hit the village hard, incapacitating many. While this was bad enough, one of the refugees was injured trying to hunt. The other refugees decided they would be better off on the road again, despite the village's protests. As the days went on, Del Nos was only getting worse and worse. In order to prevent any further breakouts of disease, Enbon Pecan had to make the hard choice and exile Del Nos. Perhaps as a cruel twist of fate, soon after exiling Del Nos, Enbon Pecan caught the plague. Fortunately, he was able to recover quite quickly. Soon after, another message reached the village. A woman named Myers had angered an ancient AI and needed a place to hide. Desperately needing more hands and not wanting to turn anyone away, they offered to hide her. As progress was made on the new mountain base, Enbon Pecan decided to plan out some future expansions. After all, they would need more space eventually. Realizing that there was a nearby Anima Nexus tree, Apple decided to link themselves to it, allowing for a brand new resource to be exploited for the village. As the village's situation had stabilized temporarily, Enbon Pecan decided that now was the perfect time to attack a nearby Empire outpost and secure the psychic neuroformers stored there. Upon arrival, he scouted out the small outpost and realized there was only one guard. Utilizing the element of stealth and a heavy machine gun, he swiftly killed the one lone guard and secured the loot. Once he had returned, Enbon Pecan used one of the two psychic neuroformers to become a pyromancer, thus allowing him to manipulate fire to defend Kaminoa. The village soon received a request from a nearby town. They were asking for the people of Kaminoa to care for some farm animals, and in exchange would send over a new settler to join them. Enbon Pecan accepted this exchange and had a sizable ranch constructed for the animals. Deciding to test his new powers, Enbon Pecan attacked a logging camp that was set up nearby. While no items of note were acquired, he did manage to successfully capture one of the guards stationed there. While the prisoner was being treated for their many injuries, a slave named Storch contacted Kaminoa, claiming he and 3 others were being pursued by Nords. He frantically said they would join the village in exchange for their protection. Once again, the others protested Enbon Pecan's choice to accept the offer, saying they barely had 2 days of food left, but he refused to change his mind. Alas, not all was well. Ulslus, the man who helped Enbon Pecan make Kaminoa what it is, was quickly falling victim to his need for go juice. To keep the others safe, and to not be a burden on them, Ulslus made the decision to leave. He left them with all his gear, and left while everyone was busy working. Although they had lost a founding member, progress could not stop. They had finished the barracks and were moving on to constructing a proper hospital, hoping to stop any future casualties. The hospital was finished just in time as Kaminoa was attacked by a pack of manhunting cats. Although the cats were successfully neutralized, many sustained injuries, with Apple being in critical condition. Thankfully, all of them made full recoveries in the following days. Seeing as they now had a massive empty ranch, they decided to go tame a nearby herd of buffalo. Their wool would be crucial to Kaminoa's survival in the coming winters. Having finished excavating the next area, the dining room and kitchen, they quickly began building furniture so they could finally have a proper place to gather and eat. As Storch was digging out the future research lab, Enbon Pecan and Calhoun came to blows over differences in ideology. This would only be the beginning of such issues, as everyone had differing beliefs. Being the one in charge of the prisoners, Calhoun decided that he would use this position to push their ideology, ranchism, hoping that if others saw the benefits of it, they would be willingly converted. Now that the research lab was finished, the tribe of Nasa could finally begin to progress technologically again. While they couldn't dedicate as much time to it as they wanted, it was now a possibility. As Kaminoa expanded, Enbon Pecan had a room made for himself. While the others complained that they all had to share a barracks, he rationalized it, saying he needed it for meditation. Besides, he was the de facto leader of Kaminoa, thus he should have his own space. While they were all busy arguing, a chunk of a spacecraft crashed into their hayfield. Upon inspection, it was full of giant insects, which immediately began assaulting Kaminoa. The fight raged on for multiple days, until all the bugs lay dead. After the battle, Apple had a mental breakdown and decided that now was the perfect time to release the prisoners. While one of the two was successfully subdued, one did escape. Prison security wasn't a very big concern, but it would later be completely revamped. A few days after the prison break, Enban Pekan began construction on the western wall. This would be crucial in funneling hostiles into more ideal areas, seeing as the attacks only seem to be increasing in difficulty. Soon after the wall started, a message from Vastine's clan reached Kaminoa. He was having issues with a nearby bandit camp and was willing to, in exchange for the removal of the camp, send over Herring, a highly social but disruptive clan member. Needing another person who could care for the prisoners, Enban Pekan accepted, and for once, the others did not complain, as they had enough food. As the first full harvest began to fill the pantry, it was quickly realized that there was not enough space to store it all safely. It was decided to expand it as fast as possible. After all, they didn't want to go through another winter barely scraping by. A few days later, the west wall was finished. While this was a great achievement, it would only defend the west. Thus, Enban Pekan began the east wall, and with its completion, it would create only one entrance to Kaminoa. Alas, due to the sheer size and resource cost, the east wall would be built in 4 sections, allowing Enban Pekan to finish each piece more efficiently. The ranch, meanwhile, was creating more and more muffalo, and it would soon reach critical mass. As the final bricks of the second section of the east wall were being laid, a bulk goods trader arrived. As Kaminoa finally had resources to spare, they agreed to trade some leathers and ambrosia for silver and a nice parka. As soon as those final bricks were laid, Enban Pekan began the third section, while the others continued to expand their home. Things seemed to finally be going well. They had a proper hospital, reliable food, and were developing quite quickly. Seeing as Calhoun had one of the most important jobs, that being caring for prisoners and helping others with mental breaks, Enban Pekan gave her the last psychic neuroformer. Using it, Calhoun was able to become an empath, giving her abilities to help her do her job more effectively. And as a bonus of being a sidecaster now, Calhoun was also given the other singular room, allowing them to meditate in peace. As the final section of the east wall was being finished, it was decided that the prison needed to be expanded. So, Storch over doubled the available space, while Enban Pekan began construction on more humane living arrangements. A few days later, yet another trader arrived at Kaminoa. While they did not want to purchase much, they were offering to sell a breeding pair of Maine Coons. After some deliberation, it was agreed that Kaminoa could easily had enough food reserves, and besides that, the Maine Coons could provide both comfort and protection to help pad out the lackluster defenses. So, using most of their money, Kaminoa bought the cats. Once the prison expansion was complete, they began to expand the hospital. While it was currently considered good enough, it would eventually be too small for the growing village. So, it would be made bigger, with proper flowing in materials, and made into a far more sterile environment. While they were considering what else needed to be built, a strange message was received. It requested they build a large structure in exchange for a herder named Agir. Needing somebody who was good with the animals, Enban Pekan accepted the strange mission, figuring they could just later repurpose the structure. After they did some weird ranchism ritual, a group of rather friendly woolly cows joined. After checking them over, it was realized they would be better producers than the muffalo, so therefore they should replace them. So, not needing as many muffalo, they were taken to a nearby town and given as gifts to help relations. Now that ranchism was the official dominant ideology in Kaminoa, it was decided that Calhoun should be made the moral guide, seeing as she was the one who knew the most about it, and Bon Pecan was currently being converted to ranchism as well, as was the plan for all the people in Kaminoa. Many days later, most were successfully converted, and could now continue work on Kaminoa's defenses. It was decided a kill box would be constructed temporarily, as to give the defenders a serious advantage. Despite it having been years since the original 5 tribals passed, Bon Pecan decided they needed more proper graves. He would carefully move them over to the new graveyard he had constructed by the new gathering place, and lay them to rest one final time. As more time passed by, it was becoming more and more clear that the barracks was not ideal. So, a new expansion project was declared. They would build everyone individual homes, changing their village into a proper town. It would be expensive and time-consuming, but it was necessary. They also began construction on a new warehouse, lab, and workshop, allowing for even more efficient production. While construction was beginning on the new town, Aguirre went out and tamed a Ripper Hound which, while a terrifying force on the battlefield, was also a very affectionate creature. It would be planned on Rippers, replacing Maine Coons as the go-to battle animal. Time was flying by as Kaminoa was rapidly expanding. Soon, they would reach the medieval era, giving them much-needed knowledge, and on top of all this expansion, more and more traders were arriving. Word on Kaminoa selling vast amounts of ambrosia must have been spreading, and they were more than happy to sell. And so finally, the tribe of Nasa was a true nation. Starting from humble beginnings and suffering setback after setback, they persevered. They were stronger both physically and mentally now, but now others would consider them a proper threat, and the trials and setbacks would only get harder. But one way or another, they were here to stay. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this little recap. If you did, please leave a like and sub. This is hopefully the first of many recaps this series, and I look forward to whatever happens next. And with that, I will see you all in the next episode.